Metal up world, this is CJ with Metal Motivation coming at you with another vlog episode. Today I want to talk to you about guarding your heart from all destroyers. Guarding your heart from all destroyers. What do I mean by heart? Well, I'm not talking about the physical thing that actually beats in your chest. I'm talking about the heart, the center of who you are, that part of you that fuels every aspect of your personality. Your personality is the sum total of a multiplicity of characteristics that make up who you are, that makes you a living person, a personality. So all of the dimensions to who you are, whether they be good or whether they be bad, whether they be positive or whether they be negative, these are all fueled by the center of who you are. And the center of who you are is your heart. It's below conscious thought. It's much, much deeper than your body, yet it controls so much of what you do. So, for example, your body can be physically challenged with illness, yet your heart remains strong. You could be struggling through a difficult season of confusion, yet your heart remains strong. So the issue is whether our heart is strong and pure or whether it's damaged and continually being destroyed. I meet so many people today who have a damaged or wounded heart. And it happens not just from one thing. It's a multiplicity of things. It's circumstances, it's upbringing, it's the things that people have said to us over the years that have gone into us and poisoned us like poison arrows and have defiled that sacred place of who we are inside. Yet it is that heart which sustains you. It's the heart, as I said, which fuels every aspect of your personality. Therefore, your heart must be guarded above all things because it is your heart that actually carries you through the most difficult seasons of your life. And when you're out for even achievement, when you're out to achieve success and whatever it is you put your hand to, that too is needed. That strength of heart which keeps you going throughout all of the trials, all the roadblocks, all the hindrances, every obstacle that ever gets in your way in that long trek towards personal change or real achievement. Therefore, we've got to guard our heart above everything else because it is, as I said, the power center to all that you are. Now, I've always found that the best way to protect your heart is to make it stronger. The best way to protect what is inside you is to actually make it stronger. And that's the essence of personal development. At least that's what it is for me. For example, I'm writing something right now that has to do with dealing with strong people in a world that is messed up. That's ultimately what we need. I'm interested, yes, that you achieve success. I'm interested that you get, the house you always wanted or marry the person you always wanted or achieve the career that you always wanted. Those things are important. I don't mean to diminish those things in any way, but this is what makes Metal Motivation different from most other self-help or motivational systems or personalities. I'm interested in making you a strong person because I begin with the fact that the world is not your oyster. It's not this big treasure chest that you can just exploit and take out of it whatever you want. Life can be merciless. We all know that. Life can be seemingly unfair and unjust, and a lot of cruel things, wicked things happen in this world. What's important is that we are resilient. What's important is that we can lean into the winds. What's important is that we can offer resistance and courage, that as life stares us down, we stare right back and we move forward with boldness and courage and the tenacity that we need to be able to not just get what it is that we want, but become the kind of agents of change, catalysts for something good, for something just in this world, because that's really what we need. So I'm interested in creating stronger people. So ultimately, the best way to protect your heart is to make it stronger. But there are other things that you can do. Number one is that you can guard yourself from every negative thought as soon as it appears in your mind. I've said this in other videos before. This is the key to mind control. Reject a negative thought as soon as it appears in your mind. And there's one primary reason for that. Because when a thought initially appears in your mind, that is when it's the weakest. And when it's the weakest, that's when the easiest way for you or time for you to be able to slap it down, stomp it out, and make sure it doesn't grow and fester and get roots. So as soon as a negative thought appears in your mind, that's exactly when you need to tear it down. The second thing that you can do is beware of what comes out of someone else's mouth. Oftentimes it is the critical words that people say to us that reinforce the negativity in our hearts. So again, what's important is that you get it as soon as it comes. So if somebody says something critical to you, and it really affects you. And while you're in interaction with them, you don't have the opportunity necessarily to slap that thing down. So what I recommend that you do is do not let 24 hours pass until you deal with the negativity that someone has thrown your way. So what I do is I go home, I take out a piece of paper, and I write down what they said. I write down the negative thing, the criticism, whatever it was that they said. I just put it down on a piece of paper. Why do I do that? Because if it's in my mind, I'm taking possession of it. If I only entertain it or try to work it out in my head, it's part of me. I'm taking some measure of possession of it. But when I put it on paper, it becomes impersonal. It is now something I'm looking at, like a math problem or something I'm reading in an argument I'm reading in a book. It becomes impersonal. It becomes something objectively that I can look at. It is something that is now outside of me, and I can argue with it. I can debate it with it. So that's what I do. I put it on a piece of paper, and at first I determine, is what they're saying true? More often than not, there may be some truth to it, but the way they're phrasing it or the way they interpret it or the way they've exaggerated it is untrue. So I write out my response. I'm not responding to them. I'm doing this simply for my own benefit. I write out my responses, and I say why that's not true, and this is what the actual truth is, and this is what I'm going to do about it. And lastly, number 3, watch what comes out of your own mouth. Because we speak out of our heart, then we can end up reinforcing the negative things we're trying to get rid of, because we're in the process of change. And while you're in the process of change, trying to transform your heart, you're still going to be spewing out some of the negativity that you really want to change. So be careful what comes out of your mouth. You have to really set guard over it. You have to watch the words that proceed out of you. Even get visions in your mind that it's like a poison river, like a poison fountain that's coming out. And then you're going to shut that down. You're going to clam it up, and you're going to watch what comes out of your mouth so that you don't not just cause it to affect you, but also affect other people, which means they're going to start to give it back to you. The more they hear negativity from you, the more they're going to mirror that back to you and repeat it back to you and remind you of the negative things that you said. So the more that you can turn off that fountain of negativity coming out of your own mouth, the less you're going to hear it echoed back from those around you. So the 3 ways to guard your heart are, number 1, reject a negative thought as soon as it enters in your mind, because that's when it's weakest. Number 2, whenever somebody says something critical to you, never let 24 hours go by that you don't write it down, get it out of your mind, and deal with it then. And number 3, watch what comes out of your own mouth, because whatever you say will not only reinforce the negativity, it'll be reflected and echoed back to you as people remind you of what you said. Can you dig that? I hope you can. This is CJ with Metal Motivation. And remember, in whatever you do, don't suck. Metal up.